Well, hence again, your local constitutional truth out here in California. And today's subject matter, although limited at the moment to the Child Procurement Syndicate, CPS, really applies across the board to all of these administrative agencies that think they have the power to do unto you, with no rights, no remedies, no nothing. And that's where we have to stop them, and we can do it. If you understand, the perspective being the key word, that's my job to teach you the word perspective. And we can go from there because the plain fact of the matter is, and you instinctively understand this, I will teach you how to put it fully into play. That you're not in a judicial court at any time or place, especially when you have state bar association attorneys showing up. That's an administrative tribunal, it's legislative, and they don't have any jurisdiction. And we have the current justices on the U.S. Supreme Court that know exactly what I just said. They've been going along in their fourth term now, all out assault on the administrative states, particularly on the quote unquote federal level. But they know, and I'd like for them to go faster this term. They may be holding up a bit, though, assuming that if Trump wins the next quote unquote election, Alito and Thomas can retire and they can get younger ones in there and they'll be there for the next 12 to 15 years. And they've already told Sonia, Elena, and Katanji that you come along with us and do what we want, or the only thing you'll be doing for the next 15 years is writing dissenting opinions. And it's personally hard for me to justify paying people in that kind of position to sit there and do nothing. They're learning. Came out in the Axon case in the last term, the unanimous opinion that you're encouraged to read. And if you do, by the way, it looks like the opinion of the court is by Elena Kagan. No, it's not. The concurrences of Justices Thomas and Gorsuch, and that's where the real meat of things come in. And read that, and there's very little in the way of legalese. Certainly fifth graders from my era would readily understand it. Today, who the hell knows with all the woke crap and transgenderism and LGBTQ crap going on, even in elementary schools, for crying out loud. And the three R's have been all but thrown out the window. And it makes you wonder, the kids in school these days, do you want to see any of those on the jury if you ever have to get that far civilly or criminally? Ain't. As bad as it is now, they're not learning a damn thing. And I didn't learn a hell of a lot when I was in school outside of Washington, D.C., for crying out loud, 60 odd years ago. And much better education in a lot of ways, especially it was run by the County Board of Education at the time, Montgomery County, instead of the state capital, like Stackwood Tomato out here. So you didn't learn anything about what I do and about the Constitution, history, and laws of the United States. That's my job to teach you that and give you the key word here, perspective on it, so you understand that black literally is white today. For more information, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, on my modestly priced materials, and we can get you started, whether you have something ongoing or whether you just want to prepare for it. And it's amazing, I think, what we can do here with these administrative agencies. And you'll learn, for example, I have a document to remove the case to federal circuit court, not federal district court. That's a legislative tribunal. Federal circuit court, Article 3, Constitution mandates that Congress shall vest the judicial power, and probably the greatest expert of all time on the original intent of Congress, Joseph Story, who was the justice on the court for 30 odd years in the 19th century, lays it out plainly. And by the way, among other things, what that means is you go in there and they want a $500 filing fee. Doesn't work that way. No forms, no fees, nothing. We have a right to be in a judicial court from day one. And that's how it works. And by the way, you'll get a document. You get my materials. I call it a Rooker-Feldman defined dollar document. And that's where the trouble starts for them. Because they're going to say, well, we want a filing fee and this, that, and the other. And you say, excuse me, you need to define dollars so I know what you're talking about. They can't do it. The dollar is undefined, if defined at all, by the president acting as commander in chief of the armed forces. And you're probably not in the Army and Navy, are you? You're not subject to that jurisdiction. Not only that, Article 1, Section 10, U.S. Constitution, no state shall make anything but gold or silver coin a tender in payment of debt. Where the hell are we if we can't pay with gold and silver coin, which they can't lawfully accept, by the way? But that's the way it's supposed to be. So no filing fees, no forms, no nothing. We have a right to be able to learn a whole lot more about that getting my modestly priced materials. Send me an email, uwinningscourt@gmail.com. And it's good across the board. And I say, especially the CPS, but traffic courts in the mix here, evictions, foreclosures, they're all doing the same BS here. And anytime you walk into what looks like a court and you see a state bar association attorney anywhere in sight, you're not in a judicial court and you haven't made any voluntary, knowing, and intelligent waiver of your rights, especially trial by jury according to the course of the common law and habeas corpus. They're not there and they can't be there, since what they do nowadays, the only body politic they recognize comes from Section 1 of what we can easily prove is the non-existent 14th War Amendment, NEFLA. That's all they recognize, and these corporate entities are, incompetent, and they're dead entities, and that's what they think you and I are, dead entities, which I believe in large part is why, for example, the state law enforcement thug that fired 48 shots into the back of Jalen Walker in Ohio and didn't even get indicted for involuntary manslaughter, let alone first-degree murder. I think that's a big reason that hasn't come to public attention as to why, because they think you're already dead, so what's the problem? Yet, at one and the same time, the lives of our public servants seem to be important. Like you go out there and put a couple of bullets into a law enforcement gun, for example, you're going to get indicted for first-degree murder. What the hell is going on here? And the Supreme Court knows all of this, by the way. You'll learn about a case called Badoff v. United States, 177 U.S. 529, back around the turn of the century. And this is because the system has no respect for the creator endowed rights of any of what it calls its United States citizens pursuant to NEFLA, the non-existent 14th War Amendment. And that's what has to change. We want to get back to where we were at one point in time. No, it wasn't perfect. Only the best government ever invented. We go back to that and make changes from there, do it right. Nothing wrong with that. But that's what they don't want you to know. They don't teach you any damn thing in school these days, let alone the Constitution, laws, and history of the United States. And I'll be doing some videos on that myself. Stay tuned. Some more professional-like videos, and they'll be set forth so that 5th and 6th graders even today can understand them. No legalese, no nothing, and get the word out there. Because without that, would any of you in your right mind, when you get on, get charged with a crime, say in 10 or 15 years, and these kids are now sitting there on the jury pool, you want any of them on a jury? Ain't. Doesn't work that way. And not supposed to. So that's, the purpose I was put here to do my job. And I would love to have known 60 years ago, right outside of Washington, D.C., crying out loud. Better late than never. And as I sometimes say in my videos, I'm a refugee in any event from the mid-19th century. And I can tell you exactly when. This is March 3rd, 1857. All you have to do is Google that and you'll find out exactly how I know. How I got here, I don't have a clue. I have to ask Elon Musk or Bill Gates about that part. But here I am, and at age 75, and life is still ahead of me. That's how good this is, and how much we have to gain here and make changes. Not to mention a hell of a lot of money in the bargain. But the money is secondary, and that's one reason we beat these bastards in front of the jury that we're never going to see. What we want to do is make changes to benefit ourselves, our families, and our posterity. Exactly like those racist framers set it up, back in 1787. We want it back. And as soon as we can possibly get it back and set this nation on the right track again, and it will do what it did in the first 125 years when we went from not even existing to being the most powerful nation on the face of the earth. What do you have to say about that in Beijing or Pyongyang, North Korea? Been there 4,000 years and not a tenth as good as what we are now, even in this decrepit state that we're in. But it is what it is. And by the way, just so you know, North Korea has the same quote unquote democracy that we have here, aka my first law teacher, 3 wolves, 2 sheep, voting on what's for dinner. Ain't didn't work then, doesn't work now. And what it's led to, instead of our Republican form of government, we have an elected despotism. And you'll find out some of those racist framers like Madison and Jefferson were really concerned about that possibility. I think that's in Federalist Papers number 28. And yet that's here we are today. But when we have the information we do, and you get my materials, send me an email, rubenincourt@gmail.com. Now we can put it directly in unopposed records in the trial court and everywhere else in sight, and greatly enhance our chances to get reviewed by the U.S. Supreme Court on the original jurisdiction. And if that happens, one case decision on any of our unopposed issues changes the legal landscape from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, and gets the job started forthwith. That's what's exciting here. But think about going back to the child procurement syndicate, anything to take your kids away for any reason or no reason, no hearings, no notice, no nothing. And how in the hell can they do that? I mean, what's more important in a relationship, between parents and children? And yet the problem is that what the government sees is that you got a marriage license and social insecurity benefits and all this other crap, and you volunteered into the system and waived all your rights. When did they tell you that you did that? Never told me back in the day when I was 16 and I applied for social insecurity. I was as ignorant as the rest of you out there. I didn't know. And for a while after that, too, I mean, I was the head of the class of ignorant. I got out of high school. What do I do? Volunteer into the Marine Corps, trying out at the height of the Tet Offensive in the Vietnam War. Fortunately, my dear mom, well, I had a great mom. I miss you, Mom, every day. Put a hex on the rings and said, "You're not going to get them." And she and my dad took me over to Fort Hollywood in Baltimore. It's one of the rare times I saw them together after the course. And I never got to Paris Island. The sergeant looked up, took one look at me, and said, "If you lose your glasses, how will you know who to shoot?" Well, it was a good question with no answer. I know the right answer now, though. No problem. I would have said, "Give me an M16, point me back to Washington, D.C., to the White House, landslide, Lyndon Johnson. I'll take care of it." If that bastard, the Monday after Kennedy was assassinated 60 years ago this year, signed an executive order reversing his executive order, taking us out of Vietnam and putting us back into it. And that's another set of videos I'll be doing, by the way, on the history of the United States involvement in quote-unquote wars. And I have expert witnesses backing me up chapter and verse on all of it. It's just, wow, going back to at least the Spanish-American War. We're not going to go into it right now. But trust me, black is literally white in this government. Nothing is anything like what it looks like. And that's what has to change. And it will when we get most of the government back, not only to the states, but to the county level. That's where 90% of it should be. A lot less expensive, a lot more efficient, and a lot easier to control. How is that for a triple trifecta? That's what we want, and I can help you to get there and tell you, get out there and tell your friends, tell them to watch the videos, get the word out. We have a window with the U.S. Supreme Court that hasn't been there in 90 years, with the justices sounding almost exactly like me, and from vintage cases that I use frequently. It's really so exciting for me at age 75. Life is ahead of me. That's how good it is. and how good I want to make it for you. So remember to subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we take action, the sooner we get our government, our lives, and our property back. Thank you.